Welcome to part 2 of learning to play Engelbert Humperdinck's famous evening prayer from his 1893 opera, Hänsel and Gretel. Let's ring on. Welcome back. I hope your first rehearsals with the last few measures of evening prayer have gone really well, but if you need a refresher or just want to review, you can always find the first lesson right up here in the iCard and scroll on back in the playlist to the demonstration recording of the entire arrangement. But let's go ahead and jump right in where we left off on beat 4 of measure 20, and that put the G sharp 5 in our left hand. So as we work back then to beat 3, that takes us to D6. And as you recall, whenever we're making a jump of more than a few steps, it's usually a good idea to try and take that jump with the hand that's in that direction. So D6 is to our right, so we're going to put the D6 in our right hand. And then as we weave back to beat 2, that puts E6 in our left hand. Then in beat 1, we find F sharp, and that'll be in our right hand. And when we go back now to measure 19, beat 4, hey, what? That's F sharp again. We'll repeat that, and so we'll just keep that in our right hand. Moving back now to beat 3, that would put D6 in our left hand. That's actually going to be really convenient because our left hand was just on the E6 in the next measure, so moving that over just one step is easy. And then when we get to beat 2, something interesting happens. We are going to play D6 again, so it'll stay in our left hand, but there's also a B5. So we're going to put that in our right hand, and that would then, of course, put the B5 on beat 1 in our right hand. Now, those of you who are looking at the Victor L. Guma arrangement of this piece, the link for that sheet music is in the description below, are going to find that Mr. Guma has put a right hand notation on beat 2 of measure 19. I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to convey here. He might have been suggesting playing both the B5 and the D6 in the right hand as a 2 in hand or as a Shelley. You could do that. There's not really a reason to do that, so my recommendation is to strike the right hand notation on beat 2 and move it to beat 1, which does mean that we're going to have the B5 in our right hand, and then we're going to make a small jump to the right to pick up the D6 in our left hand. And normally we would try to avoid doing that kind of jump with a kind of crossbody grab, but it's not really a problem here. First off, as we go on, we're going to be repeating the D6, so there's not really a crisscrossed hands issue there. But also, if we look back to the previous measure, we're coming from a B5 already, so we have plenty of time to get sorted out. So let's go ahead and start at measure 19, nice and slow here, and pick up the B5 in our right hand, and since we will have had time, we will probably already have the D6 in our left hand. So let's play that together. We've got beat 1 with the B5 in our right hand, then beat 2 has both bells rung, and then as we repeat the D6 in our left hand, we'll put down the B5 in its position. And this now gets us ready to lean to the right to pick up the F sharp, and as it rings, we damp the D6. And we have plenty of time now to come over just that one step to the E6 in our left hand as we ring the F sharp again. And now we're ready to put down the F sharp and ring the E6 in our left hand, lean to our left a little bit to weave to pick up the D6. And as we ring that, we'll put down the E in its position. And then we lean all the way to the left to pick up the G sharp on beat 4. And of course, because you practiced and I practiced, we know that we can finish this out to the end, so we don't need to do that here. Let's do that again. Still out of time. Put the B5 in our right hand, the D6 in our left, And as a reminder, we want to keep our knees and our feet nice and loose so that we can lean or step to either side as we weave. Remember, don't ever plant your feet while you're solo ringing, or in general, it's just not a particularly good idea. We want to be nice and nimble as we move through our choreography. Coming up, we'll have a video up here in the iCard about body mechanics while we're ringing, but it's also just a reminder, a good idea to keep one foot a little in front of the other while we're ringing. It helps distribute your body weight a little better, reduces the strain on your back while you're reaching over the table, and you'll feel a lot better while you're playing. All right, let's continue now. Beat 1, measure 19. We have the B5 in our right hand, and then beat 2, we play the bells together. Lean to the left to put down the B5. Play the D6 again as we lean to the right to pick up the F sharp. Right as we ring that, we'll damp the D6 and just slide over a little bit to the E here as we play the F sharp again. And we'll put that down as we ring the E6. Lean back to get the D6 with our right hand and lean back over so we can put down the E6. And then we lean all the way to the left to pick up the G6, and we'll damp that, damp the D6 as we ring. And of course, we can then continue. And we know that part. Okay, let's go ahead and take it in time. Measure 19. B5 in our right hand and D6 in our left hand. I'll give you 2 beats. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Excellent. Okay, you're well on your way. As a reminder, you can always back up the video a little bit, take a few times through with me, or even pause the video and work at it at a slower speed and then bring it up to this tempo. You can also fiddle around with the YouTube controls on the speed. It shouldn't pitch bend it too much. It might work for you. Your mileage may vary, but go ahead and give it a shot. If that works well for you, put a note in the comments to encourage others to try it. If that doesn't work for you and you're using some other technique, tell us about that in the comments, and I'll mention it in a future video. All right, let's go ahead and work back now from measure 19 into measure 18. So on beat 3, we have a half note with the B5 still in our right hand. And we're going to be jumping now all the way up to E6. And there would be a couple ways of handling this. We could have a hand-to-hand switch here so that we could use a right hand grab for the E6. But I'm going to suggest that since we have half notes in this measure, we have all sorts of time. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we plan on playing that E6 with our left hand. Okay, so now we work back from there. So that's 18, beat 1. The E6 is in our left hand. And then on beat 4 of measure 17, that would put the E6 repeating in our left hand. And then we'll work back from there. There's a C natural. I guess that would be in our right hand. It repeats again on beat 2. And then finally that puts the A in our left hand. So notice that even though we have a couple of backwards jumps here with our lefts and rights, that this now at the A to the C becomes a proper direction jump with the A starting in our left hand. For me, because we have the repeated C naturals and the repeated E6 followed by the repeated B5, we've got time to take kind of an extra couple of leans, and it avoids needing to do a hand-to-hand pass. So to me, it seems a little easier. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. So pick up, in measure 17, pick up the A5 in our left hand. And those of you who are already looking ahead or looking back, you'll see that we're coming from an A5, so it'll already be in our left hand. That's convenient. So we'll pick up the A5 in our left hand and the C natural 6 in our right hand. Hey, look at that, we're doing accidentals. All right, So beat 1, we have the A. Beat 2 is the C, which we repeat, and so we can kind of lean and maybe even take a few shuffle steps to our right. And to pick up the E6. And here I would recommend damping the C natural on your shoulder. If you need a reminder to do that, go ahead and put an S on beat 3 with a little down arrow next to the S, which indicates that you're going to dampen on your shoulder, then set it on the table. So that was beat 4. Now we're playing beat 1 with the repeated E6. So now you've got plenty of time during this half note to step to your left, put down the C natural, and what do you know? The very next note you're going to play is that B5, and it's right there next to the C. So that's really convenient. And we'll damp the E6 on our shoulder. And again, we've got a half note here, plenty of time to step over here, set down the E6 in its position, and then just one step away is the D6 that we're going to need to play on beat 2 of measure 19. So let's walk through that again, nice and slow. Starting beat 1, measure 17, A5 is in our left hand, C natural 6 will be in our right. And remember that we're going to be damping that C natural on our shoulder before it goes to the table. And we'll do the same thing with the E6 on beat 4. It will damp on our shoulder before it goes to the table. So here's measure 17, A5, followed by, on beat 2, the C natural 6, which repeats on beat 3. Then it will damp on my shoulder as I play E6 in my left. I step to my left as I play it again and set down the C natural 6 in its position. Pick up the B while I damp the E6 on my shoulder. Step to my right during that half note. And now I'm ready to pick up the D6 in my left hand for measure 19. Here's beat 1, and I'm all ready to continue. Okay. You might need to take a moment, pause, and work through that a couple of times. And then when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and take that in time. Here we are. Pick up the A5 in our left hand with the C natural 6 in our right hand. Let's do this in time. I'll give you 2 beats. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Very good. I noticed as I was playing that I actually ended up damping, without thinking too much about it, the C natural 6 and the E6 on the table. You can do that, but don't feel that you need to do that. Damping on your shoulder to give you more time to move around, especially as you're working through your choreography, is a totally good idea. As you advance in your skills, you'll become a little more natural as to saying, oh, maybe I can skip that. I can do it right on the table without it being too clunky while you move. Okay, let's do this again from measure 17, and this time we will continue all the way through to the last beat of measure 20. So measure 17, beat 1, we have A5 in our left hand and C natural 6 in our right hand. Here we go. 2 beats. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you know how to do the rest. All right, let's do that again, those 2 segments together. At measure 17 through to beat 4 of measure 20. Put our A5 in our left hand, our C natural 6 in our right hand, and we'll take that in time. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Well done. Go ahead and pause and practice that a few times until it's nice and smooth. We'll go on to the last two measures we're going to work on in this lesson in just a second, but first I want to say thank you to everyone who is supporting this project through Patreon, PayPal, and by way of Forzanto Arts. What you're doing is making a difference. In particular, I'd like to thank Valerie Ziegler for everything you are doing. It's amazing. Keep it up. If you would like to increase your level of support, or if you would like to join at any level of support, even a couple of dollars makes a big difference. You can learn how to do that at danielreck.com/buildbetterbrains. There we have information about the project, what we're doing. You can see all the different updates, and you can learn how to get early access and behind-the-scenes access to things that are reserved just for the patrons and supporters of this project. So check that out. Thank you so much for supporting what we're doing. Okay, let's continue now from measure 17. Backing up then, so we had the A5 in our left hand at the beginning of measure 17. And when we move back now to beat 3, in measure 16, it's still an A5, so we'll keep that in our left hand. Working back now to beat 2, it's still an A5, and it will be in our left hand. And then now going back to beat 1 of measure 16, that'll be a D6, and it's a jump, so it's a jump to the right, so that will be in our right hand. Those of you looking at the Victor Guma arrangement of this will see that this gets pretty up and close and personal with your duet partner. You'll just want to negotiate that with your partner. There are a couple different good ways to handle this. I'm not going to tell you that there is one best way to do it. It really is whatever is going to be most comfortable for you and your partner. And it does vary somewhat whether you and your partner are playing on the same set of bells or if you're playing on two separate sets of bells. Okay, let's continue then back. Beat 4 of measure 15 is a repeated D6, so it's still in our right hand. And now we go back to beat 3 now of measure 15. That puts the B5 in our left hand, which repeats again on beat 2 of measure 15. And then finally on beat 1, we start with the right hand on G5, unless you're playing a duet, in which case your duet partner is going to actually play that G5. So it does feel a little backwards there. Again, just like we saw in measure 19, you'd be doing an upward jump with the left hand, but it only applies if you're playing this as a solo. If you're playing it as a duet, it's perfectly natural. And it's also not that big of a deal because you're coming from a rest in the previous measure, so you have time to reposition, and you do have repeated B5 instances on beats 2 and 3. So it's not that big of a deal to take that step and get into position. Let's go ahead and work this through now. Measure 15, we have the G5 in our right hand, the B5 will be in our left hand. So we have our beat 1 with the G5, and then beat 2 is B5, which repeats, and we step to the right to pick up the D6, and we play that on beat 4, and we play it again on beat 1 as we reach for the A5 in our left hand, and we play that on beat 2, and we'll play it again on beat 3. This is a pretty easy couple of measures. Let's just do that slowly one last time. Here we go. The G5 is in our right hand, B5 is in our left. Beat 1 is the G5. Beat 2 is going to be the B5. Notice that I'm ringing that way over here to the left so that it's not in the way when I'm setting down the G5. So here's beat 3 with the B5. now I can come over here and pick up the D6 and ring it. And it repeats on beat 1 while I pick up the A5 on beat 2, and then it repeats on beat 3. Not bad at all. That's pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, let's take that in time. So measure 15, beat 1. G5 is in our right, B5 is in our left. And we're going to ring that B5 way over to the left so we have plenty of room to put down the G5. All right, here we go. 2 beats. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, great. Reset. Do that again. G5 in our right hand, B5 in our left. 2 beats. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead back to beat 1 of measure 15, and this time we're going to take it all the way to the end. I know you got this. All right, G5 is in our right hand, B5 is in our left. Here we go. 2 beats. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you make it? I think you're doing a great job. Let's do that one last time all the way through, and then we'll be ready to move on to lesson 3 and continue backwards as we work through evening prayer from Hänsel and Gretel. Okay, measure 15, beat 1. G5 is in our right hand and B5 is in our left hand. Here we go. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, off. All right, we're moving right along. Not quite halfway through evening prayer, but we'll be there soon enough. We moved a little more quickly here in part 2, so you might find you need to spend a little more individual time working out some passages. I promise that's a good thing. As always, you can rewind this video to review it, or you can jump in the Build Better Brains playlist to review any earlier lessons in the series. As you do, if you come across maybe something I didn't explain very well, or maybe you even have a better way of doing something, jump in the comments and share that feedback. It is very helpful. It helps me become a better teacher, and I really appreciate that kind of support. I also really appreciate everyone's generosity and giving by way of Forzando Arts and PayPal and Patreon. Some people have been amazingly generous, and I really am appreciative of that. But other people have been generous in a different way. They've given at the Ovation or Encore levels, just a few dollars, but they're sharing the generosity of their heart and love and care for what we're doing. They believe in building better brains. They believe in this music education mission, and that means a lot to me too. So I want to say thank you to Valerie Ziegler for giving that kind of support. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as part of my thanks to people who give at the Ovation and Encore levels and on up through the different tiers, they receive early access to these videos as well as behind the scenes footage and photos and blog posts. So if you're interested in that, please jump in the comments to grab the link for danielreck.com/brains and learn how to sign up and support what we're doing here. I very much appreciate you joining me on this musical journey. I will see you next time for the next part of evening prayer, and until then, ring on. Welcome to part 2 of learning to play the Welcome to part 2 of learning to play the evening prayer from Engelbert Humperdinck. Yeah, that name.